This video is a tutorial on the seller instruction to exclude listing from the multiple listing service and days on the market, CAR Form SELM. And this title is a mouthful, but luckily this form's quite simple, yet misunderstood, because with the clear cooperation policy, which I'll explain, this form has become a lot less relevant, but agents still use it. So I want to explain how to fill this form out, but I want to also explain the implications of it. So it's pretty straightforward. By default, it's an addendum to the listing agreement. You put the date of the listing agreement. Then you put the property street address and the name of the seller and, of course, the brokerage. Now here we write which MLS we're a member of. So I put in the one I typically use. Now this form comes up when, so I'd say most of the time when I see this form, it's been done mistakenly. And the reason is that agents there'll be a gap between the date that the listing agreement here, this date of when it's signed, and when this goes into the MLS. But that cannot be. And that's what that clear cooperation issue is. So let's take a look at this form. We'll go through it. We'll try to make it easy because it's only one page after all. So it right now explains in paragraph 2 what the benefit is of using the MLS and the trade-off should a seller choose to not go in the MLS. Now I can tell you that there's really no logical reason a seller would not want to go into the MLS. Try to change my mind, give me your feedback, leave a comment or whatever, but I'm telling you that ultimately to get the highest price, a property needs maximum exposure. And that's what the MLS does. It gives maximum exposure and explains that right here in paragraph 2. Now we go on to paragraph 3. Now, NAR mandated that association affiliated, so local board affiliated MLSs institute clear cooperation. Clear cooperation is a way to eliminate pocket listings. This is very important because there's a big fine for agents that violate this. And you want to steer clear of fines, right? So let me pull over from NAR's website. Oh my gosh, of course. All right. Okay, so on NAR's website, it says a clear cooperation. Basically, within one business day of marketing a property to the public, a listing must be in the MLS. Okay, so it says that. Now, this is because agents would take listings and then they would market it or send a bulk email out, or they would put their sign up and they'd spend maybe the first week or two trying to double end it or get leads or basically create a pocket listing. Well, clear cooperation eliminates that. Now, there's also an exception to the clear cooperation because they must acknowledge, and when I say they, I mean NAR and CAR and whoever's drafting these forms, must acknowledge that in theory, a seller could say, hey, don't put my property on the MLS. So they have to make this exempt listings provision. Because right now it says basically, if you even print flyers and put them in a flyer box, if you even send an email out to your office, it must be in the MLS within one day. And there's a huge fine if you don't do that. Now, they say that, of course, there's an exempt listing, but you still have to register the property in the MLS. You still have to enter the data in. Now, it doesn't get disseminated, right? It doesn't go to all the other MLS participants, but you are still obligated to enter it. And there's a separate way to input a listing that is just for informational purposes only. But it asks here in paragraph 3, and it says, does the MLS not require? Maybe it exists, maybe, but if you're using this form, you're a realtor, and realtor MLSs require that you're following clear cooperation. So I don't see how paragraph 3 right here ever applies to the situation, because they all have a requirement that you follow clear cooperation. So this brings us past paragraph 3. I've never heard of this happening. It could happen somewhere, but this is not a thing for realtors. Now, number 4, seller instruction to broker to exclude the property from the MLS. Let's say some sellers do not put my property in the MLS, okay? Which logically in a vacuum does not make any sense. And I don't, someone might say, well, what if it's a private seller or discretion? Nonsense, okay? The most famous people with the biggest profiles that they want to keep discreet sell their homes on the MLS. So what's the reason? Why on earth would someone want to eliminate all the potential buyers that would discover their property through the MLS? Okay, whatever though. So for whatever reason, there's this section. This is the only section I could ever imagine being used by an agent in a SELM form. Because guys, a SELM does not get you out of listing in the MLS. It doesn't. Or I should say in almost all cases it does not. And and I'll walk you through the whole logical issue that came up when clear cooperation went into effect. An agent says, hey, I took a listing, but the property won't be ready to be marketed or be available to the public for X amount of days. Or I want to market it. I want to market the property, but I can't do showings. They're delayed. That's what coming soon status is. Coming soon is you've entered it. You've done the one day requirement here on clear cooperation, but you're not ready to show the property yet. So, okay, let's look at paragraph 4. You can check the box. Do not market the property immediately. Begin marketing the marketing to the public on such and such date. Or do not market the property to the public during the entire listing period. Okay. A makes sense because it's saying don't do any marketing, but you have to understand you can't put a sign and say, hey, I'm going to wait until this date to input it in the MLS. It's saying no marketing. Don't even send a bulk email to your buyer list. Nothing until this date. And at that date, it needs to go in the MLS. Or do not market the property to the public during the entire listing period. I'm trying to imagine a case when that makes sense. Maybe if you are trying to get a listing for someone that wants to basically be officially off market, but also have an agent on retainer, a de facto retainer, which is a listing agreement, so that if you happen to come across a buyer that asks for that exact property, you can introduce them to the seller and do what is very similar to an off-market sale. Basically, this is just saying that there's a listing agreement that where the seller's chosen you as an agent, but you're not doing any marketing. You just happen to be on standby in case a buyer just magically appears. They're just trying to cover all the bases with this verbiage, but I mean, this form got effectively made toothless with clear cooperation. And it reminds you here, whether A or B is selected, seller understands and agrees that should any public marketing of the property occur. Now, public marketing, again, just type in clear cooperation. It says this, including but not limited to flyers, displays in windows, yard sign, digital marketing on public-facing websites. They wrote this so that any marketing whatsoever, any marketing. They are trying to eliminate pocket listings, and I think that's actually a good move for the industry. And it says, should any of that public marketing occur, the property listing will be submitted to the MLS for cooperation with the other brokers within 1 business day. So that's it. Does your seller fall in this scenario when this form is needed? Probably not. Almost always when I see this form, it is done incorrectly or unnecessarily. I would say if you do an off-market sale and you have a listing agreement signed, which you shouldn't, you should do a single party compensation, then you may want to do this along here with it. So this reconciles your obligation to publicly market a property in a listing agreement, and you're curbing the obligations of the listing agreement by putting this form in the file. But even then, it doesn't really make sense. I thought I'd go through this because I see these documents floating around, but they're not done properly because this form is very rarely needed in transactions. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Thanks for watching.